of game number 1.
Yeah.
So we saw a 1-3-1 composition set up by Weibo. Rise, as we can see, Rise and Yorick off the board. JDG with a pretty early game comp that they went for and executed successfully.
Yeah, and I think throughout a lot of this split, at times, JDG's overall execution on these kind of comps have been lacking. So it's good to hear that game number 1 seems to have gone the opposite way. Talia was left up and available, and whilst the S tier kind of pairings that you typically see with it aren't up and available in the Pantheon on the Xin, I'm sure that Tian is going to find his way onto something. I imagine the Vi is going to rise in priority just by nature of the Talia being first picked, and that hover suggests to me that Shun is likely going to take it away. And we'll see whether or not Scout wants to immediately respond. Of course, knowing that Talia should go mid, you've got options to pick up Peyz champs or even maybe a blind pick top, and there you go, Sion's going to get locked in.
Yeah, so I mean, taking just the most upfront tank that you can possibly for JDG here. Again, a switch up for Arla, who, like we saw, took the Renekton into game number 1, so a little bit of a difference maker on the Sion, hopefully just being that front line as Weibo respond with the Lovers duo in answer to the Vi with that Feather Storm, but still going to feel a little bit of pressure as the mid laner in particular up against the Vi.
Yeah, still will. Of course, the Feather Storm is going to dodge out on the cease and desists, and that will make Shun's life a little bit difficult, locking Light down later on in the game. Is Scout really going to bust out the LeBlanc? I mean, it would be cool, and it would be incredibly difficult to play the game. I think Annie also kind of... You end up with the same conclusion, really, inside a lane as the Talia. So, nice to see that. Of course, a lot more frontal engage usually, or the flanks also just do end up being a lot more scary if you can't track this Annie. So we'll have to see how that goes for Scout, but also how Weibo try and lock down their flanks once those mid-game fights start to kick off.
Yeah, we actually saw this a little bit in one of our series yesterday, where by taking this Annie, you lock yourself into very bursty composition. And that means that anybody that stacks HP, fortunately for JDG at the minute, Weibo don't have any of those. Anybody that stacks HP actually can start to run through your composition quite significantly. But Peyz here expecting to go for a hyper carry. They need something that will deal consistent DPS. Because currently they don't have a lot of that going round. Weibo, though, as they move through the rest of this, they've already taken off the Kai'Sa. They need a top laner and a jungler. JDG need to round out their bot lane.
Yeah, I do imagine it's going to be something relatively early focused, and I like that Weibo tried to remove away that Lucian. Just as, you know, early answer, Lucian, Nami, Lucian, Milio, all of these very irritating to lane against champions can make that Zyra Khan's life more difficult than it has to be, right? I think people do generally, to this day, still very much overestimate how much work this 2v2 can get done, but then also weirdly, I think they kind of underestimate it because of all the nerfs it's gotten over the years.
Yeah.
But it does, by the looks of things, with that Zeri getting locked in, kind of spell to me that Missing's going to end up landing on the Lulu here, unless he does the cat option, which you know what, weirdly enough, I wouldn't hate right now. It could make matters very, very irritating for Weibo, as we're going to get a Trundle on Tian. So early game prowess, it really feels like Monkey has brought this pick to light for the entire world. It's actually just seeing more play in just about every region as kind of the 4th or 5th best AD early skirmisher. And Breathe, kind of known for his weird picks every now and again, but I think we are just going to end up getting this Cassante, which does make me sad, and I don't know why it's coming back.
You spoke both of these into existence.
I know.
We were playing Skillshot, and you said it's the year that Zeri and Cassante got released. They've spawned in game number 2, Jamada. You've spawned them back in. They knew you came onto the cast for this, and they were like, you know what he'll really appreciate?
You know what? Like
Zeri and Cassante.
Weibo, the organization in the LPL that I am historically known for loving. I come onto a cast mid-series, mind you, as basically a substitute, and we get Cassante, Zeri, Lulu inside the game.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys.
Welcome
Thank
back,
you very much.
You know?
Yeah. I've missed it. I've missed it, truly. But these two compositions kind of can do similar things, right? I think for both these compositions, front to back, very much a valid option, right? For the side of JDG, playing multiple angles through the Vi, through the Annie, very, very valid. I'm just kind of concerned, I suppose, for how this Xayah is eventually going to end up dealing damage as time goes on. It feels like if she's in range of any of these champions, she is just in threat of getting CC chained and immediately blown up. So, you know, Weibo's bot lane as a whole, and the whole composition is really going to have to make sure they do their bit in buying him space and letting Light try and open up to deal the damage that he has to do.
Yeah, and then by extension, if Weibo spending so much time peeling and keeping their AD carry alive, that then gives free reign for a Zeri with a Lulu buffing her up to also run free in that backline. So it is going to be a difficult game for Weibo to try and play out. They've established at least some sort of battle lines. They've pivoted away from that 1-3-1 composition, and they've gone more towards a stock standard, picking up of HP, having that generic front line. They've got that backline access. They've got the backline protection as well with the Rakan, who can go in between both sides. But for Weibo, certainly a big task ahead of them. They got this first pick of the Talia. It's been answered with Vi and Annie in that mid lane, so it's going to be a difficult run of things by any means for Xiaohu, as he's going to be, you'd like to think, focused pretty heavily from maybe even level 2, level 3 onwards, as we're ready now for JDG, who took game number 1 to play up against Weibo in their second game of this best of 5.
We've got Discourse in the crowd.
敌军还有30秒到达战场。
I hear Weibo in my right ear, JDG in my left, but they're chanting over each other.
Normally they take turns, right? Like there's an element of
that was a proper breaking of the culture there for a second.
Yeah, nice to see, honestly. I mean, maybe that'll go down in LPL history as the time that the tradition was broken, but they're just so eager and so keen to cheer on their teams that actually they couldn't hold on any longer.
Not this time.
And for the level 1 at the very least, was expecting, I mean, with Sion, you have to look and think, is there going to be any shenanigans with Sion level 1s? And Arla and Breathe both walked down to that bot side, both sacrificed their wards, and then immediately have gone back up to the top side. So standard lane, standard everything, and junglers both starting on their red buffs here.
Yeah, I'd actually like to point out, I find it quite funny that you brought up the possibility of very early, even like level 2 ganks coming out. Look at Scout's Keystone. He's gone towards the Peyz rush here, which I don't think is super common. And I think that is just to pay respect to the early presence that Trundle can pay in the mid lane. Being in a mobile mid laner, right? A mid laner without a dash.
Yeah.
Getting out of that pillar can be pretty tricky at times, and the Peyz rush is certainly going to help him out with that. And also, I just suppose if he's expecting the Talia to go Peyz rush, which she often does, then I'm sure inside a lane, it certainly does help with the trades, as we get an extended look at this bottom side of the map, which I'm sure will be absolutely riveting throughout the first 10 minutes. It's just going to be this, what you're seeing. It should just be Missing and Peyz, zoning off Light and Heart when and where they can. But Tian, judging by how he's leashing this camp, wants to get a little bit early and active towards this blue buff, or maybe the mid lane if Scout does something a little bit funky.
Oh, that ward didn't spot him. The pillar into the unraveled earth. The slow from the Chomp and a flash from Scout.
That's cheeky.
Will just get him out to safety, but that is a very nice interaction.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if you're unaware of what happened there, the displacement from the pillar stuns Scout on Xiaohu's unraveled earth, the E on the floor. So that is something that Scout is just going to have to do his best to avoid. I mean, it's pretty unavoidable, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Scout with no flash, good luck.
Yeah, and now that puts a little bit more pressure onto Jun as well, I will say, because his mid laner now has no flash and is going to have to at least get some sort of protection, you'd like to think. And, there is a cost for Tian going for that gank. It was, 5-10 seconds delayed on his clear, but in exchange for a mid lane flash, that is absolutely worth the trade. As topside, we're seeing some good brawling going down. Arla looking for Breathe, Grass Procs being traded. Now Tian, once again, did this in game 1, didn't die mid lane this time round. He's looking for Arla to burn the flash before using that pillar, chomping him down. Finally, the flash comes through. They're going for the dive here, and one more smack, and Tian finds first blood.
I was worried because, I mean, like, Breathe knows he can only take one tower shot, but now the cross map on the bottom side of the map.
Polymorph gets cleansed, but Light still not anywhere to go. Gets down under the turret. Missing flashes over the walls of the air. Doesn't whack him one to go down as well. It's a trade across the map. Light goes down in exchange for Arla.
Yeah, Missing denies the 1-for-1 there at the very end of that dive, but it was very well executed by JDG overall. Light does end up blowing the cleanse and does keep his flash, but still dies, misses that wave, and he's going to have to walk to the top side of the map. So I'd say overall for JDG, they're probably going to be liking that trade a little bit more. Peyz holds onto his summoner spells. He gets the kill credit. And as he returns to the bottom side of the map, there will be at least half a wave or so waiting for him. Though Weibo were very quick on this response to ensure that Breathe could make it back out, push out this wave, try and min-max the situation as best as possible.
Yeah, the TP immediately expended by Breathe to go down to that bot side, whether a response to the dive or just as a response in jest to give them a way to make something happen in this bot lane and catch as many minions as possible. But it is a pivot of making sure that this bot lane can now actually farm, because it feels like it was going to be a pretty rough bot side, as we've got no trolling around. Tian's last Trundle game was a loss against Malrang at Worlds 2022, so it's been a while, but he's definitely looking pretty decent on it so far.
Losing to Malrang is not a good track record.
That's true. But 2022 Malrang.
Yeah. Yeah, alright, you know what? Fair play. Scout is going to walk out of this one fine. A lot of pings you can probably hear in your ears, but nothing is actually going to come of that, despite Shin being in the area. And Ala is being forced off this wave up here. Couldn't quite catch if it was frozen. No, it's slow pushing back out, so Ala will eventually be able to eat some of this wave. And judging by just the sheer number of pings, but also just the map setup here, this should be a pretty free dragon for Shin to pick up uncontested. Tian doesn't really have anything to do but farm his topside quadrant of the map, as diving a Scion on the top side, it's not really a super high yield play. The Light and Aha will almost undoubtedly still get a bunch of plays anyway.
If it wasn't for the insane amount of HP and tankiness of a Scion early on between his Soul Furnace and the CC that he can put out, the fact that he also then comes back to life and can clear the wave himself regardless and not really lose anything, does tend to make it very high risk for relatively little reward. And this is a play that was initiated by Weibo to begin with, and all that being said, there are 4 people heading up toward this top side, but Missing and Peyz are nearby. Whether they engage on this or not remains to be seen, and they're actually looking for Missing. Flash from Eher knocks up the Lulu, and she gets taken down instantly. Eher maybe gets traded. Scout on an angle here, double stun, double Tivers, finds one in response. Peyz is still going crazy, not yet level 6, but doesn't need it, as Tian also clubbing away at this Scion. Soul Furnace keeps him alive for a little bit longer and actually baits in Light. He may fall as well now, as Scout throws out his last spell, last bit of mana, and Peyz trading. Got a need to go over the wall. No level 6. Peyz finds 3 in the top side.
It's an absolute disaster for Weibo, and I mean, admittedly, at the beginning, I like the decisiveness from Erha to just snap engage onto Missing. He knows he's the one without that summoner spell, right? No flash available, no heal. That's coming up now, but JDG were ready. They'd early rotated Peyz on and Missing up to this top side, and Missing just barely hovering in fog for such a long time, and more or less waiting to see if Weibo would commit. And so I'm talking about, you see, just for a brief moment, they hesitate, they step back, but Missing, or rather Erha, makes the call. And whilst they do find Missing in the end, the immediate collapse from Scout is here, and the front-to-back fight is just super easy for Peyz. He's got a bunch of space being bought for him by Tibbers, by Ala, and Light can't really do anything meaningful in this fight, right? He's not 2 items. We're talking about level 5 Xayah. He's not getting through that Scion health bar at all, and Peyz cleaned up the front line, finds his way onto Light, easy as you like. And
looks like it's not stopping
he's
there
going to find
either.
Xiaohu, apparently.
It is going from bad to worse for Weibo through this early game. We valued that both of these teams, you know, they've got elements of that scaling, but as we get later on, Azeri is going to out DPS Xayah, no doubt, and with a 1400 gold lead already for Peyz in this early game, JDG can again feel very confident with their position in this game, as Eher and Light maybe looking to once again engage onto Missing, but Scout's there, Peyz is ready, and Jun's here as well. Weibo, the bot lane, have overextended, they flexed their hand, and they will fall.
Rude, it's looking, well, let's just say this sequence hasn't been pleasant to Weibo.
The evolution is back. Missing is forced to flash, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's totally. That might not be okay though. Oh my god.
Peyz getting
getting something.
Goomba one shot by Breathe is the term that I'm going to use there.
Yeah. I hope that the LPL observers give us a replay of however the hell that happened.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the fact that Zeri was already eeing over the wall, but of course, Cassante R can't really be buffered like that. It could be buffered
No.
in other ways, but not like that. So that looked pretty funky. And Peyz does give over his shutdown to K'Sante. God bless. Yeah, they don't care about what happened on the top side. It's just this interaction. Yeah. Once K'Sante plants himself, he's going to drag you to the desired location of where the all-out will take you. So very unfortunate for Peyz. He did everything correct, actually. That he couldn't have done a better button press.
No, we
scenario.
could argue that it's that, or he has to predict that Breathe is going to flash all out him, and then he saves his ether afterwards, which is completely unreasonable. So, like, Peyz is playing it about as best as possible, and ultimately just gets K'Sante momented for probably not the first time in his career since the Champions release. But that's a big
every
pickup.
ADC. I think
That's true.
Momented at some point. But you're right. You're very much right. In a moment in the game where, you know, about 3 different plays back to back just went horribly wrong for Weibo. They needed that little bit of cash injection, even if it's onto the K'Sante. And I mean, admittedly, while Zeri has only slightly been known for dealing damage past that 3 item mark, she's not exactly the world's best tank, you know, shredder, though she can get 3 health bars. K'Sante, on the other hand, is at times just very much a different beast when it comes to well, losing health, really.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he has to sacrifice his own health to be as strong as he can be, but even still, I mean, if you're looking at 1 versus 1s exclusively, we value a K'Sante being able to take down a Zeri if you can get on top of her, and you know, that's where you start to think about how well is the rest of Weibo able to set up for that situation, how well is Missing going to be able to do to peel his AD carry. Second Drake is live, and I think that with that small gold advantage just overall, and the fact that the bot side is here, JDG are going to start off this dragon.
They want to contest, and I don't mind this because Breeve's here. They're not going to get the dragon. They might find the fight afterwards.
So Peyz has Hop ready to go over the wall, all out immediately onto Jun, who just gets enough HP to actually flash out over the wall. And for Weibo, that's a disaster. Now Arla knocks up Tian, who gets double stunned. Scouts Tibbers finds 2 as well. Arla's running amok on the backline, and they cannot take him down. Breathe has nowhere near the same consequence, and Peyz flashing forward once again on the Zeri, already on a double kill. Ultra Shock Laser not quite finding light as he sidesteps that one, but JDG come out with 2 kills, the dragon, and nobody dies.
My son Peyz is gliding today.
Yeah.
8, 1 and 2. This is I don't want to speak it potentially into existence, Rude. But Weibo JDG historically known for being a very tense affair every time it happens. As if you follow Weibo on Twitter, you'll see, you know, they engage in vigorous activity, I think is the exact
social media
phrase
activity.
Hey, I'm just quoting the Weibo socials here.
I see. Okay.
Don't get on to me for doing my job here.
My apologies, sir. My apologies. You proceed.
But Peyz could be on for like kill record, like levels of if this nonsense keeps on going. These 8 kills in 13 minutes. It can't keep going on like this, surely.
And maybe, Jamada, just maybe it can. And that's the hard truth for Weibo is. I mean, yes, actually Missing did go down, so I apologize for saying that nobody falls, but you can see that they're buying so much space for Peyz, and even just the Molten Shield that Scout's able to put out in these team fights gives Peyz that little bit of extra gumption and movement speed to go forward, which is going to be devastating.
Yeah, every little helps in that kind of situation. It's so insane that Shun doesn't actually get bursted out by the end of it, but that is just the power of Lulu in situations like that. It is what the champion is designed to do at this stage in the game, though I do miss solo lane Lulu. The old heads war.
Do you? Athene's Unholy Grail Lulu mid lane.
Yeah, that was fun. Bring that back. I was even testing it last year in the solo lane. I thought it was gonna show up in pro play eventually. Real annoying.
Well, we're still waiting for that time.
Yeah.
And maybe for some people, thank goodness that we are, as Breathe has decided to go all out and just forces Arla to use the Unstoppable Onslaught.
Yep. Simple ult for ult trade. Nothing too crazy there. And expect Arla to be pretty happy to make that exchange whenever he can force it out, to be honest with you. It's so much of Breeve's agency that you.
And it's also a really short cooldown for Arla as well,
yeah,
right?
eventually it gets to the point where it's really short. Like the level 1 cooldown is definitely a little bit higher, missing by the skin of his teeth. Gets away from that shove back. But yeah, especially like level 11 is really the main break point where it kind of just goes from being, you know, kind of somewhere in the 2.5-ish minute region to like, hey, this thing's off cooldown every 80 seconds to 60 seconds, which is a big deal for a semi-global like that.
I mean, so then for Arla, a pretty big win is a TP up to this top side here. We saw this from Weibo in game number 1, where they're just trying to either take a turret, force down a Sion with no ulti, no flash as well. Knockup does land, and Arla's in a little bit of trouble here. Empowered Rock thrown to the face. It's not even going to land as Breathe takes the kill beforehand.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of an unnecessary death. They saw him fly across the map. So, you know, it's not like Arla didn't know that play was coming, but still goes down nonetheless. And
He's
the tower's
so
going to be
surprised
shared.
by the Talia spawning
You
in
know
top
what?
lane. How did this happen?
I think he's more... Alright, if we're to give him benefit of the doubt, he's probably more surprised that he came from the front instead of the back. You know, like, if I'm Arla there, I'm expecting a Weaver's Wall, just from in between the tier 1 and 2. Not a
maybe a bit more time to try and slow play it and use the turret maybe a little bit more to your advantage instead of just getting knocked up underneath it and taken down regardless.
Yeah, he had a whole sequence of ideas in his head of how to potentially outplay it.
And then,
the simplest way
Occam's
was...
Razor. Yeah. Why don't we just kill him the normal way? Oh, yeah, so that works.
Yeah, you know what, that works. That's not bad. Let's do that.
26 seconds now on that Cloud Dragon. JDG have taken the first 2, and by all accounts look to be snowballing their way to a pretty early Cloud Soul here. A teleport across the map from Arla to be a part of this fight down in the bot side, and Weibo Gaming group up as 4, clump into that bot side jungle, and Weibo have immediately paid enough respect.
It's a scuffle on the mid wave again, just by all the pings.
Herald does go down here. And for Tian, that's a tool used. Xiaohu, in fact, is going to ride this in, and we're TPing into the mid lane here. Something's going to happen. Scout gets stunned initially. Arla whiffs on the unstoppable onslaught, and remember, no flash for this Sion just yet. Lulu to buy some space, some time, but the Sion goes down. Flash for flash between Breathe and Peyz, and now the Zeri can go a little bit nuclear. Charm, knock up, CC chained as Xiaohu leaks it up, and Peyz is down, and now Weibo, they have control over mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, Peyz is just looking to squeeze a little bit too hard there for the extra damage. Missing used his ultimate and his heal. Hold on a second, it's an extra dive.
They're going for even more here. Missing dodges out on the sides to make Shove, but Shove's going to go down. Scout flashes into 3. Finds a stun on the wall, but nobody falls. And now he's just resigned himself to death. Erha lives as well, and Weibo have found a fight.
Goodness me. I mean, fair play Weibo, but he just questions asked again. Not only of Arla, but this time Peyz too far forward. And while Scouts engage on the back end was obviously nice, JDG had already been routed by that point, and Weibo are going to stop this snowball of the potential early Cloud Soul, which honestly would have been pretty close to devastating. You think back to the days, I mean, we're talking old days today, 2023.
So
Cloud
long
Dragon
ago.
and the Soul was actually scary because of Zeri being in so many games. That denial is fantastic. The replay, I mean, Xiaohu and the Herald looks alright, but I mean, just keep your eyes on Arla, and then eventually Peyz, right? No one can really... Arla's not buying space here. Peyz isn't really dumping damage into meaningful targets. And then Missing uses the heal and the ultimate, and this is why this is crucial. This step forward here, a great re-engage from Erha and the flick back on point. Reeve keeps Peyz completely 102-0 CC'd, but Missing can't do anything to save it, because he's already used it on Arla, who was probably resigned to death anyway.
And then, you know, the follow-up on all of this, it's Missing again attempting to keep his team alive, and you know, the woes of a Lulu, he does manage to flash out to safety. But they lose the tier 1 turret there. They don't find anything in response, and for JDG, that's a pretty big loss overall. The Zeri losing her second shutdown, it is still strong in this game. We can't take that away from Peyz, still up 2.2k gold, but you look at the item disparities here. Light actually has hit that 2-item marker as well. Doesn't have the tier 2 boots and is, you know, missing out on a crit cloak, but you look 2 items for 2 items. These AD carries are doing...
you don't really care at this point, right? Yeah, you really don't. Like the crit cloak is really the... Comically, it's the biggest disparity just because of how crit scales with the more you have. But even then, light, the flicker blades are going to be so important for just getting cooldowns back up in a front to back if he can actually open up. And the overall gold difference has started to open up now in favor of Weibo. So 2,000 gold for them. A lot of that does still sit in breathe, admittedly. But he's been using it well to just be very simple.
And it's another one of these moderately highlight performances from Weibo's top side again, with Tian having a really solid early game, finding the gank mid lane to force Scout's flash, finding the kill top side to give Breathe that early opener into the laning phase, and you know, by extension giving him the tools to be able to take down Peyz in the top side jungle, and then flashing in, taking him down here as well. But JDG not thwarted by their 3,000 gold deficit here. They're the ones starting up the dragon, knowing that Peyz is the carry. Double TPs have come through from both sides as Xiaohu's wall cuts off Xun, cuts off Peyz. Should both be able to get over the wall here. Early knock up onto Breathe. He's able to get out to safety. Looking like a comical flip here as Peyz forced to dash away. Smite secured by Tian. And Weibo now looking forward here. They've stolen the Atakan away, and that's going to be enough for them.
Cheers for the leash.
TY for leash, guys.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's done. Shouldn't. Oh, he gets clipped by the Pathmaker, actually.
And immunes the all-out with the cease and desist. Walks back in and almost gets caught by a Q3 by Breeze, but that is a big, big win for Xun here. Could have easily been taken down, but manages to combo his way out of it.
Yeah, all right. Well, fair play, Xun. That could have been a pretty bad play. You lose Xun there in a situation like that. Maybe you end up losing tier 2 on the top side. Oh my goodness.
Arla flashed you 1 point. The unstoppable onslaught. Xiaohu did have to flash away, but he's on the wrong side of the wall. He will go down. And it's another shutdown. It's this time in Peyz's pocket.
You know what? Arla? Yeah, fair play, man. Just didn't see the angle. You did. They didn't see it. Xiaohu's dead. Lost his flash. Peyz is going to get even more gold. He's up 3k.
Yeah.
On light. That is a lot of gold. He's probably going to go back to base, and if he doesn't have LDR or that. No. Okay. Swap back.
He's swapping.
Had the more reminder for a second. Now he's gone back to the
it's only Trundle healing and grass procs. Yeah. We just go for the LDR.
He kind of like realized. I think like generally, more reminder is kind of just, I don't know. It feels nicer. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's like the little symbol, the anti-heal symbol that pops up.
Because you can just tell. It's like anytime anybody heals, in your head somewhere something goes, you didn't heal as much because of me.
Yeah.
And like there's the immediate satisfaction, whereas LDR you don't see it necessarily, that you're just doing more damage innately. So maybe there's a mental thing and you kind of have to train yourself into going, actually they have a lot of armor, this is just better.
Yeah. Welcome to visual feedback game design, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that might just be the science behind it, to be honest with you. This dragon is going to go completely uncontested by JDG. They don't want any business to do with that.
And this now does change.
Tier 1 on the top side.
With the Atakan going down, how the fights are looking to play out, that's a pretty big boost of experience for a lot of Weibo. It helps them sort of stay relevant in this game. You know, you touched on the fact that Zeri is a slightly scarier carry, and more importantly, you touched on the fact that Xayah isn't going to be easily able to cut through the front line of JDG without being under threat herself. So having Weibo with this small advantage early on, and in this mid game, I guess, gives them an opportunity now to accelerate that and push it further forward.
Yeah, I think the additional thing here is the ionization from light. Whilst I don't mind the flicker blades, what it does obviously do is kind of, it delays the in quotation marks, important ADC items of Infinity Edge and Lord Dominic's to cut through those tanks. So he's going to have to heavily rely on the fact of, you know, having more blade callers up and available more frequently, right? The Qs, the W steroid, which the name is escaping me, but I'm not a play-by-play, so it's not really my job to know it.
Hey man, me either.
I just know what it does.
We'll see if Light can use that W to great effect, as You know, there's a little bit more posturing now around this bot side, and you know, for the Xayah, getting that Infinity Edge online is going to be the most important breakpoint, and maybe that defines whether or not Weibo look to try and take these fights, or whether they feel comfortable using what is objectively their stronger top side, right? We look across the map, 4.7 thousand gold overall between the top and jungle. Mid lane pretty much at a stalemate, and when you think about it as well, Scout, as far as DPS threats go, he's really good for burst, but not necessarily landing true when it comes to the consistent DPS route, more so acting as a facet for other magic damage to come through.
This build is also quite strange, because realistically, how much magic damage is Peyz dealing really? You know? Like, it's not Kai'Sa.
There was, yeah. I mean, Zeri is like 60-40 physical to magic, so it's not nothing, but it's still not a lot, you know?
But it's also like not Malignant
very ulti
Death Cap
dependent.
or something. Oh, whoa.
Okay.
Did I
That
just
was a
not
flash
see the
away
W
from the
marker on
Unraveled
floor?
Earth. Yeah, there was a
Okay,
W
yeah,
there
alright.
that he flashed away from.
Alright.
It wasn't an attempted engage, and a lot of pretty colours right now, Jamada. Nothing actually happening.
Yeah, alright. Guys, don't worry. Scout didn't grief. He saved his life very conservatively.
Saw a threat,
Midway
he flashed
jostling.
away from it.
Mind
There's
you,
a lot of
Baron
tension
has
right now.
spawned. Yeah.
So if anybody does go down, expectation is that the Baron is going to be the play that they go for. We've got 2 minutes left on a Cloud Dragon spawning, which isn't, it's going to be sole point for whoever gets it, but doesn't have the highest weighting on it necessarily to take.
I'm about to start breaking into football chart. Like, is this NA? You know? Like, what does my beautiful region become?
Why are we waiting? As we
we're not waiting
finally
anymore.
find an engage, and Ola loses half his HP, even a little bit more, and forced summon a heal from missing. Unstoppable Onslaught to disengage. Xiaohu follows up, though. The Weaver's Wall comes through, but the shove goes wide. It's an early win for Weibo here as they force Ola out of mid lane and force JDG to retreat. It's on a little bit of a rogue angle here, but I don't think he's going to be found nor punished, and it's just Weibo establishing control of mid lane.
Yeah, Scout, mate. Put the cardboard box away. Alright. We're not doing that. He will. I think he's going to go and just hit that top wave now. The side lane waves were being ignored for a little while.
Yeah.
As it were.
Minions left to do their own PvE devices, but this is a play made by JDG. We'll see whether or not it yields any fruit, as Arla has no ulti, missing with no summoner heal as well, and Peyz, alongside June, immediately leave the Baron. Called up pretty early on by Weibo, as Tian in this game 2 levels up over his counterpart, and they're looking to route JDG out of mid lane. They've established control over that wave, and they probably lose the tier 2 here as a consequence for their actions. They spent time looking towards the Baron, they didn't find it, and Weibo come out on top.
Yeah, good reactions there from Weibo to just strip away what they acknowledge they can from JDG's rather rush attempt at the Baron. They're going to catch us mid-wave high as well and just kind of keep JDG suffocated a little bit. Or they go too far. Maybe they give an angle to Scout on Shun.
Yeah, Unstoppable Onslaught blocked by the pillar there as the charm comes through, but Airhair unfortunately stunned. He's used the quickness, and now they don't have that tool, and JDG immediately turn tail up toward the Baron once again, sacrificing control over that mid-wave, so they have to start this up early. Missing, though, caught by the pillar. Not going to burn the flash, walks the long way round, and again, it's June this time forced to flash out. Re-engaged onto Tian, and JDG are going forward. It looks good for them, and that's because it is. Jungle is so far traded, but Peyz is unleashing his damage onto Weibo. Tries to flash forward, go a little bit aggressively here. Still with that summoner spell available, and now just waiting for that ulti to wear out. Arla taking up the damage of Light in the front line, and Lightning crashes out, and JDG go for a 1-for-1, and Weibo once again stand tall.
That is where those fights for JDG and just for Peyz in general look so good, right? Slight mispositioning from Shun, sure, but the kind of re-engage where Shun goes forward, there's another body in front of him, and then Peyz can hit whatever the hell is being set up for him. And with the quickness being down from that previous exchange, it also makes his life significantly more easy, just because he knows that there's no immediate, potentially undodgeable threat, right? When Rakan has R&W and Flash, it feels like you pretty much have to flash that or you die. Without that,
and it's
crucial element is gone.
Especially without the cleanse as well. Normally, like, if Rakan flashes on you,
oh yeah,
with the quickness, you can cleanse flash out, and that's like the counterplay, but
On that, actually, I'm very, very surprised that Missing didn't go towards the Mikhails first with the Ghost like locked in. It seems like I'm pretty sure those components are for Mikhails.
All the sport items build out of the same thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, like,
I'm convinced.
I personally recognize those. Oh, Missing might have to flash. Yeah,
and he does so. Arla as well walks around the pillar here. Doesn't have to burn the ulti to get out to safety, and it's currently just again another expenditure that comes out on top of Weibo. Will quickly point out though that if we look at a front to back, Peyz is sat at 4.5 items, where Light is sat on 3. It's a decided advantage in items for Peyz and for that DPS threat explicitly.
Yeah, and again, so much of Light's damage is going to have to come through, you know, other means of setup so that the blade coolers are connecting. And again, just the contextual amount of space that Azira feels like needs to deal damage without being turned on or one-shot in this kind of composition. As Xiaohu is now the target of an engage.
But he's pulled in Jun deep, and he's going to get taken down very quickly over the wall and far too aggressive. JDG lose their jungler with Baron and Dragon alive. Now JDG, they've got to fight their way out of this. Peyz hops over the wall. He's the carry. He's the threat that Weibo need to focus. And so far, they've not found access. Just a little bit of attention focused onto Missing. It's a 1-for-0 still in favor of Weibo. But what do they do with this?
I mean, the Baron start, right? Shun's dead. He's not on the map. Ultimates are available for JDG, but the one that's super important to me really is the Wild Growth. It provides so much space to Peyz. Not being there. Can the presence dissuade this Baron? That's the question.
Playing up on this top side, want to be able to pivot out if possible, but Xiaohu has based. He's come back in on a flank angle with a double knock-up, but JDG looking to take this fight themselves. Breathe already very low in the front line, stands tall as the Baron falls. Weibo get in, they get out.
Way.
Are they unscathed here as Light's been left to leave his own devices? He goes down, a 1k kill for Peyz, but 4 members take the Baron.
I have a sneaking suspicion that Peyz might be basing for a 5th item right now. Weibo get out with the ultimate prize, however, with the Nash, and they're going to get this 4th dragon, so they're going to be very speedy. Out
so
on the
this
map,
is
out of combat.
sole point here for Weibo that they take. And they are going to still have you know, an insane amount of movement speed regardless, but if they find one more soul, that's, again, an even bigger boon. And looking at that 5th item that you alluded to here, Jamada, the Guardian Angel picked up for Peyz. If JDG had one job to kill Peyz, it just got that little bit harder.
Absolutely. 100% crit energy 8. Good luck, gentlemen. But JDG haven't really done a good job of utilizing this, what was an 8-kill Zeri at about 12-13 minutes. I feel like I successfully cast the curse, the kill record game, which was the intent, by the way. I can reveal that now.
We've done a good job.
Of course, yeah.
And I mean, with like all of this gold, now is when, as well, unfortunately for JDG, it actually gets a little more tricky from here, because the gap between AD carries is only going to get smaller. Peyz doesn't get any stronger than this other than levels, which he's still got 3 to go in fairness. But they're looking on a little bit of a flank angle here. I think that for JDG, you know, they'll be a little bit disappointed that they had an 8-kill Zeri that, you know, unfortunately hasn't won them the game at this point.
Almost certainly. And a lot of it has come from decisions that they've made, whether as a team or individually, right? You think about Arla getting caught out on the top side, the skirmishes, of course, beforehand. Cloud Drake win rate in ranked 83.5%. I always see this stat. And I'm pretty sure it's still to this day. I'm pretty sure still to this day is the highest win rate soul. But again, this is why visual feedback is such an important aspect of game design. Because for ages, people were just like, well, you know, movement speed sucks, like, compared to, like, more damage. And then I think we all remember Hecarim, Righteous Glory, Youmu's, like, that meta where everyone was building Righteous Glory, right? I think everyone remembers that.
I wonder why movement speed is so good, guy. I wonder why Righteous Glory is such a good item. I can't quite put my finger on what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. What made that item good? But,
maybe the insane engage and movement towards enemies, but we can't be sure. We can't work it out.
Can't be too sure. But yeah, very, very OP buff. As by the end of the Baron buff, it didn't really amount to too much in the end for JDG.
No.
Just kind of a, or rather for Weibo, just kind of a stabilization It's hard to say stabilization when they're in effectively a game state lead at that
maybe it's a detriment to Weibo here. We spent the time that they had the Baron talking about the uses of Cloud Dragon, which, you know, is probably not how that should have gone.
How their usage of Baron went.
Yeah, they did nothing. They I mean, yeah, like you say, you could argue stabilized, but that's not really the position that you'd want to be in when you had a gold lead and a Baron at your backs. And I know that you weren't obviously here for our pre-show, but our entire point of how JDG wins games, we had the keys to success, and it was exclusively Peyz. And I want to highlight that with him having 6 full items, or 5.5 with the tier 3 boots at this stage, that this is the best place for JDG to have all of their gold. But unfortunately, it's the only real place that they've got gold at this point.
Yeah, and even when you look at other places, right, even you look towards Tian and Shun, there is currently, until Shun gets that GA completed, right, that is a clean 2-item advantage, right? Shun's a Vi, 35 minutes into the game with 2 items and a BF sword and a little bit of extra radiant armor on top of that, you know? It does not feel great right now to be that Vi in this kind of setup. So Weibo have gold in a lot more areas, and an ADC who is now 4 items that is still going to feel good about getting through frontline. JDG, they need to set up Peyz for a good fight, and if he doesn't have a good fight, their life is very difficult. But also Scout needs to finally have one of those big combos like he found 1 or 2 times in the early game to really set apart JDG and Weibo here.
You can see that he is looking to just play a little bit split from his team, not in a detriment to them, but in order to try and find something of a unique engage. We've got 30 seconds left on this dragon, and Sazwick shoving to the brush. Doesn't quite catch out JDG, but remember that...
clicked that, man. Sorry, that was just so
just
ego from Peyz.
Yeah, it was. And he is still sat on a ward here. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't know this, but currently operating under the assumption that he's not actually familiar. Drake does spawn. There is a Baron up for the winner of this impending fight. JDG need to stop the soul from Weibo, where they could theoretically look to go elsewhere on this timer. So JDG started up nice and early.
Nice and early indeed. Can
Scouts on this flank angle.
That's the big question.
So it's secured. The soul not picked up by Weibo. Scout waiting for Weibo to ingress into their jungle, and maybe they know that somebody's there. An initial stun stops him from throwing up the pillar, and Tian gets the subjugate down, but is it too late? Absolutely not! Peyz knocked up, Scout flashes forward! Thunderstorm by Light keeps himself safe, and Peyz into the GA now. Ulti goes down, and Weibo breathe, taking Scout over the wall, and Peyz still alive. Arla falls. A 2 for 1 so far as Scout actually looking, and he gets more! Dashing forward, takes down 2, takes down 3. It's overall just JDG coming on top and taking the dragon.
Peyz dealt 10,000 damage in that team fight. And even though he did go into the GA, he did get flicked forward. Whilst that was happening, Scout's re-engage was huge and might have just kept JDG in the game, frankly. I think there was maybe a wave in the bottom side of the map, funnily enough, to have played off of had Weibo won that fight wholeheartedly.
We had another look at this. It's Scout initially starting onto Tian.
Yeah, I mean, good little pick here initially, but it's about what happens after the fact, right? The fact that Shun dies and so much healing comes through from Tian, and Erha finds his mark. Peyz has to use so much defensively, but this re-engage from Scout, I think 4 people's immediately stunned out. Light has to use the ultimate and the cleanse, and Peyz is able to get so much damage out. He even dies. Oh.
They're looking. Peyz, they found 1. They found 2. The Zeri is dead.
They're picking mid. They're not even picking the Baron. They want to end the game now that Peyz is dead. We're 38 minutes into this.
And they might just be able to do it here, Jamada. Their AD carry is down. The carry of this team, the Peyz train that we set up early, has fallen. Scout and Arla, the only 2 carries left alive. Weibo don't seem to care.
Scout is on a mission.
He's on a flank of all flanks here, trying to get access, but he's being marked by Breathe. Arla's job here to try and clear the wave. Scout as well. Burns his cooldowns onto Breathe, and JDG, they're just buying time. 20 seconds left still for Peyz. Scout falls as well, but that wave, it's still alive. One minion, one Nexus turret is all they need. And Weibo Gaming, against the 8-kill Zeri 12 minutes into this game, come back and take game 2.
Your government-mandated blue side win. Brought to you by... I don't even know what, to be honest with you. Like, that was just a ridiculous game. That was
brought to us by Jun trying to take a crab. Was how I figured that was. I mean, we were caught in replay when they got engaged on, but I mean, again, it's our junglers. I mean, end of game 1 was Tian going for a red buff that he didn't have rights to. End of game 2 is Jun going for a crab that he didn't have rights to.
That damn crab, man.
Yeah.
The way it smiles. Well, I mean, a very messy game, but what would you expect out of JDG Weibo? Like any iteration over the last 3 years, frankly. 8 kills on that Zeri. But JDG managed to come back through a slew of really good punishes, honestly. I wouldn't even say they were overly proactive this game, though I will give credit to Erha in that front, time and time again. Those snap re-engages were incredible.
And it's very clear, and I think that that's maybe the single detriment of this JD composition, is that they had one carry. And that makes it crystal clear for Erha exactly who he needs to engage on every single time. It is look for Zeri, find Zeri, and take her down. And, you know, Erha, again, like you said, to his credit, did exactly that for the most part, was constantly looking, constantly snapping onto the Zeri and trying to find those fights. We highlighted this. This was our graphic from the pre-show, Jamada, that the entire way that JDG seem to win games comes from Peyz, and when that doesn't quite work out, we can see the issues.
Ah, yes, Peyz,
Studying.
Peyz. Did we mention Peyz? Yeah, I'm studying. Hold on, I'm doing my reading, guys. I'm getting on. I've got my imaginary glasses on as well. Consistency is lacking. Solo laners, Ala, and Scout must not drag the team down and do their part. Well, whoever put forward this graphic, I have some unfortunate news for you about this game too. But to be fair, a little bit more on Ala than it is Scout, in all fairness, from that game. Scout did, you know, he did about as much as I reckon he could have done.
He played Annie at the end of the day.
Yeah, like, he played Annie, right? Yeah, that's the perfect way to play it. But yeah, certainly Ala, not the best space buyer on that Scion this game for sure. It felt like was perhaps a little bit too lost in the sauce of how much damage he wasn't actually allowed to take by the end of it. But yeah, I still feel this was just realistically, it was Weibo's game to win, and they did not close out on rather JDG's game to win. I apologize, and they just did not close out on that. 8 kills. I really can't emphasize that enough. Yeah, 8 kills on Zeri at 12 minutes is insane.
Because it looked like they were just going to run away with it, and it'd be 2-0, and we'd be looking at this and thinking, is this just going to be a clean sweep? But, I mean, again, as in credit to Weibo, we saw a glimpse of it in game number 1 with a Rise Realm up to topside. But when they make the plays aggressively, they've actually been pretty effective at doing that, and I think this game in particular is obviously a great example because they're the ones that are aggressively making plays and actually then coming out on top of it. And actually looking at the damage disparities here, the fact that these AD carries are so closely matched is a surprise to me.
Someone get Troublelink on the line. A support has dealt more damage than a Vi early rotation. I'd say she's twisted in her grave, but she is currently over in Denmark.
She's a bit busy
the NLC
currently.
Finals. She's a bit busy right now. But the 2 AD carries dealing the lion's share of all of the damage in the game for this one. As this was really the moment where stuff started to turn around, and Peyz just, again, can't really do anything about this other than not press his button until he's in this position, which just feels unfair.
It does, and maybe that's the unfortunate reality, is that was the only way, and maybe it's the way that he needed to play it. It came off of, again, that was his first death, and I think that death in particular was such a momentum breaker. And, you know, we talked about Erha being the MVP, or maybe being one of the crucial players for this game, but I think that Breathe's performance in just taking down Peyz this many times, like, that stopper was actually massive for them.
Yeah, the first, like, kind of 4-ish sequences where it was like the pick in the top side onto Peyz, the skirmish, the fight that we just saw here in this this highlight, were just so critical to restoring a bit of control for Weibo on the map. Because without those picks, without that gold, it does feel like Weibo probably would have sunk. And this was, again, another one of those scary moments where you think, all right, well, hey, like, guys, we might have thrown a couple of times, but Peyz still has a bunch of damage. But then we look at moments like these just a few minutes later where Shun, unfortunately, having a stinker, right? Like, going a bit too far forward, a little bit too invested in wanting to, you know, engage without the appropriate follow-up.
And it is as well unfortunate that JDG actually the ones seeming to throw this game, right? The fight around mid lane where Peyz goes down, it's because he's, as you put it on the time, trying to squeeze a little bit too much out of his kit, trying to do a little bit too much damage, and Erha punishes. Around the first time they lost on that topside fight, it's Jun who's going too far forward with that cease and desist, and it's Erha once again punishing those oversteps, but it comes from a place of Weibo finding these fights because JDG gave them the opening.
Just time and time again, it feels like JDG have, throughout the split, gone through these swings where they are incredibly good at executing, and they'll just, like, sweep some of these top end of the table teams, you know, in sort of 27, 28 minutes. And then you'll have games like these, which start off like they're gonna look like that, and then, you know, all of a sudden, we're kind of out of sync. It doesn't feel like JDG has a game plan. They don't really have a habitual sequence that they lean on where they're like trying to cross map an objective. It does feel like they kind of get sucked into the chaos of games, and this was a chaotic game, and B, one where they did get sucked in a lot. Player of the game could be like anyone, but it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah. I like this for the breaking up of momentum. I think that was the most important part of this. JDG were just running away with it, and that one single kill onto Peyz stopped them in their tracks.
Yeah, no, this is a good vote. Again, I think you could have given it to Erha if you really wanted to. I think there would, you know, honestly, the fact that Light dealt probably more damage than the entire team combined.
Also a good advocate for...
You know, like, oftentimes, the biggest stick just wins when it comes to MVP voting here in the LPL. But yeah, they gave it to a good, cerebral candidate in this particular situation.
So well done to Breathe for winning MVP. Well done to Weibo for clawing their way back into this series. We are now tied up 1-1. We're going to take ourselves a very quick break, but when we return, we will have game number 3 of JDG versus Weibo Gaming. Don't go anywhere, folks. It's going to deliver.